Page navigation in FlutterFlow is handled through routing, where a unique route identifies each page. Navigation can be programmed to happen on events like button clicks, leading to actions such as opening a new page or returning to a previous page. And that's what we are going to cover in this module. First, you will learn about navigation stack and also how you can use page navigation together with actions in FlutterFlow. Then, we're going to implement page navigation in a demo application. Then we're going to go and review parameters, the way that you can pass data between pages. And finally, we're going to explore the generated code related to the navigation and routing in our FlutterFlow project. All right, what are you waiting for? Let's just get started. Navigation is an important aspect of app development, enabling users to move between different pages or screens. This is achieved through a system of routing where each page is assigned a unique route identifier. Just think of a URL. When you go to FlutterFlow docs page, you will land on a home page. And after clicking on each page, you will navigate to another page, for example, Quick Start, in which the URL is a unique identifier of this page. The routing system in the mobile app works similarly. Routes define different screens or pages with the app. Each route is linked to a specific screen and has a unique identifier, making it easy for the app to recognize and navigate to it. In FlutterFlow, you can define these route names in route settings for each page. But what happens when you navigate from one page to another or return? That's where understanding the navigation stack is important. The navigation stack is a data structure that tracks route as they are pushed and popped of it. It follows the last in, first out or LIFO principle, meaning the last screen the user navigates to is the first one that user moves away from when the user presses the back button. When you navigate to a new screen, the route is pushed to the top of the stack. For example, if you are on the home page and navigate to the profile screen, the profile screen route is pushed to the top of the stack. When you navigate back, the topmost route is popped off the stack and the previous screen becomes visible. For example, if you are on a profile screen and press the back button, the profile screen route is popped off, revealing the home screen. You may want to replace the current route with a new route without adding to the stack. This is useful for actions like logging in when you don't want users to navigate back to the login screen after login. Now that you understand what it means to say push, pop, and replace a route, let's see how you can use it in FlutterFlow. In FlutterFlow, you have three main navigation actions to navigate between different screens in your app. Let's start with navigate to or push a route. This involves navigating to a new screen by pushing a new route onto the navigation stack. Navigate back or pop a route involves navigating back to the previous screen by popping the current route off the navigation stack. And replace route involves replacing the current route with a new route. Unlike pushing a route, replacing a route does not add to the stack, as we've seen. It swaps the current route with the new one. Let's go deeper into each action, starting with the Navigate to Action. Navigate to Action lets you control how users move from one page to another in your app. Let's break down its key properties. First, there is Allow Back Navigation. This toggle prevents users from returning to the current page after moving forward. It's useful to keep users focused on the current flow without allowing them to return. One important note is that the allowing back navigation does not affect the Android back button. If you want to disable the back button on a specific page, you must set the Disable Android Back Button property on that destination page. Then there is Transition Type. Here you can choose an animation effect to navigate between screens. Options include Default, Instant, Fade in, Slide up, Slide down, Left and right, and Scale, giving you the flexibility to create a smooth user experience. The default transition, though, is set in the app details setting, where you can have a routing configuration. You can override these default to what you prefer for your app. However, the default from FlutterFlow is what the default transition is on the platform that the app is running, like Android or iOS. The default is the default of these platforms. You can also set the transition duration. This controls how long the transition animation takes, measured in milliseconds. Adjusting this helps you fine-tune the speed of your screen transition. And finally, there are page parameters. A parameter is a special kind of variable that refers to one of the pieces of data provided as input. This feature allows you to send data to the next page during navigation, which is handy by passing information like user details or settings between screens. Nice. Let's explore the navigation back action. On the next page you're navigating to, it is important to provide users with a way to return to the previous page. This can be done by adding a navigation back action, typically to the app bar or any other area where you want user to initiate the back navigation. You can find navigation back in the list of navigation actions. And finally, replace route, which means the current screen is removed from the stack and the new screen is added in its place. This action is essentially the navigate to action with the replace route option enabled. This option lets you replace the current page in the navigation stack. Let me give you one more time a better example. If a user moves from onboarding page to login page and then to home page, they usually go back to login when pressing the back button on the home page. But if you enable replace route on login page, pressing the back button on home page will take them directly back to the onboarding, skipping page login. All right, so you may ask if it would be possible to see all navigation between pages in FlutterFlow. And the answer is yes. The storyboard view allows you to visualize the overall design and navigation of your app. On a storyboard, you can see different screens and user interactions that make up your app. This allows you to see how user will navigate through your application and ensure that the user experience is as intuitive and user-friendly as possible. In a storyboard, a legend is a visual key or guide that explains the meaning of the different lines, icons, colors used inside the canvas. Let's quickly understand what they mean. The solid line is used to represent the navigate or login action. The dotted line is used to represent the button sheet action. The right arrow icon represents hidden widgets. These widgets may not be visible in the current page view, but they still have a navigation action to display them. Let me tell you one tip about storyboard. With so many pages displayed on a storyboard, it may be difficult to identify the route path from a specific page, especially when lines overlap each other. To highlight the pathways leading into and out of a specific page, click on the page. The route will be highlighted in blue. Beautiful. That's all about navigation fundamentals in FlutterFlow. And now we are ready to implement navigation in our project. Let's see how we can do that in the following video demo. Back to my application builder dashboard. So we have multiple pages that we created in my project: order list page, product list page, product settings, and so on. Would like to create a new page right now as product detail page. So I'm going to go and add a new page. But this time I will just select it from one of the templates. Let's just go ahead and select this one. And there you go. Now I have my product detail page. I will select product item card and open the action flow editor. On tab, I will add an action, and under the navigation, you will see that you have navigate to. When I open the navigate to, it lists all of the pages that is available. And in this case, I want to navigate to product detail page. After selecting the page, then you'll see the properties panel. So in this case, you can define the transition, duration, or whether you want this to be a replace route or not. I will keep everything as is for now. So next is going to the product detail page and make sure that our icon button right now, which is not in the app bar, so it's also having a back button. I will select icon buttons and open action flow editor, and on tab, I will add another action, but this time navigate back. Let me just rename this action also to navigate back. Before I do a demo, let me also show you the storyboard. But before opening the storyboard, let me also tell you one thing. I already added a few more actions for navigation. For homepage, we have a button that if I look at the action, it navigates to profile setting page. That's good. Then in the profile setting page, I have an invite button, which then if I look at that, it actually navigates back to home page. That's good. Then we have these profile setting items, which we already have the address navigating to the address list page. It's time to go and check the storyboard. When I open the storyboard, you'll see that I have the home page. And if I select it, you see how is the navigation working. And you'll see the blue line, the way that it works. Perfect. There's actually a few navigation here. If I select the profile, you see the same. An address. Very good. And then I also have product list, which is now navigating to the product details. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and test out this navigation. Here is my app up and running. I'm going to go to profile setting. I'm going to go to home page. And then after clicking on the product card, then we go to the detail. And if I go back, it go back to the product list. And same for avatar, going to profile settings and then go back to the product list. Nice. But for now, we're actually going from one product to the detail. And in fact, there is no data. So any of the product I'm adding, even here and click, it goes to the same page, but we want to actually load the exact product. That's what we're going to achieve in the next video by passing data between pages. As you build your app, you often encounter the need to pass through or transfer data from one page to another. For example, when a user taps on a product item, you may want to send product data to the next page to display its detail. This process of passing data between pages is accomplished using parameters. In programming, a parameter is a piece of information that you pass to a function, method, or action so it can perform its task with specific data. Think of it like giving an address to a delivery driver. The driver needs that specific information to know where to go. In FlutterFlow, you can pass parameters on both pages and components. So when navigating from one page to another, you can send parameters to configure the destination page based on the data from the current page. This is useful for tasks like passing a product ID to a product detail page or a specific detail to a detail view page. Page parameters pass essential data between pages that do not persist in the app's global state, but are necessary for specific functionalities or displays on the subsequent page. Typically, you can use page parameters in three main use cases. Information that defines the context of the new page, such as identifiers or items or entities that the page must display. This could include identifiers for transaction, specific products page, or user profiles selected on the previous page. Settings or options that user chooses that affect how the next page functions or appears. For example, filter or sort preferences selected on a list page must be applied to the subsequent result pages. Values generated through user activities on the current page that are needed for calculations or logic on the next page. These could be quantities, dates, or configuration details necessary to perform operations or initiate processes on the next page. When you create a parameter for a page, you need to give it a name and type, and make sure whether it's required, which means it must be presented. You can also optionally pass default value. All right, now let's go to our demo and implement a navigation with parameter. In the previous demo, we added a navigation from product items card to product details page. However, we have not passed any data, so the product details page for each of the products gotta be the same, but we need to pass the product details. I'm gonna go on the product item card and open the action flow editor. This time, when I click on the navigate to action, you will see that I have the parameters. Because there is no parameters defined on the product details page, I can click and actually define a parameters. Another option would be go to product detail page, and then on the page parameters section, add a new parameters. Let's actually do that here. Let's add the parameters. What we are going to pass here, we can either pass the entire product. For example, in this case, I need to define my data type as the product. Or do we really need to pass the entire product? Maybe not. Maybe only the product ID as the string is going to be enough. And that's going to be required as well. Because when I have the product ID, then I can go through the product list and find the specific product. And we already have the products in our app state. So let's just confirm this. Let's go to our app state. And you will see that we have the products list in the app state. So then when I have the product ID, I can filter the product from the app state. All right, that's good. Let's go back to our page. Before even I go to the actions and set the parameters, you will see there is an error appearing. Let's take a look at the error. Passing parameters. Because we said the product ID is required, we need to pass that from the action. All right, that's good. So I can now go and select my product item card, open the action flow editor, and this time you'll see that I have the pass button. So I need to pass my parameter to the page. Let's click on that. And that's going to be the product ID. That action already knows the product details page has only one product ID parameters. Let's now go ahead and select the value for that to pass to product details page. And that would be from the product list items. What was that? Let's just have a refresher here. When we generate this list, we created a dynamic children as the variable name of products list. And each of them is going to be the products list item. And that's where it's coming from. Let's go back to our action and then to product parameters, set from variable, products list item. And it's already a data structure field. And I know that it's going to be the ID. Beautiful. All right. Sounds good. Now I'm passing a product ID. What happens is that when you click on each of this, it's going to pass the ID of the item that you tapped on. Let's do a minor change also on product details page. All right, so now I'm going to go and actually set the text, this one, to be a title of the product. I'm going to set it from variable, but what are we going to do? We already have the product list from app state. And what we're going to do right now, we're going to just make sure we're filtering this list. And we filter that by the product ID parameters that we are passing to the page, which is already under the page parameters. And what should be this condition? This should be equal to the item of this filter. We are having a list, and then there is an item in the list that we are matching the product ID with it. So I'm going to select it from variable, and then I'm going to have item in the list. And which field of this item, select the data structure, I will say, give me the ID. I'm going to match the product ID with of the ID of this item of this list, and that's going to be my condition. Then if the product is already matched, then we're going to have an item at index. So it will be a list of product, but that's going to be only one product. Then I'm going to select the first one. And what item do we need for title? It's going to be data structure of title. Beautiful. We can now repeat the exact same condition for description. Let's repeat that. So I'm going to go to app state, the product. We're going to filter the item by the condition of checking the product ID is equal to an item in the list which has the same ID. Then we're going to make sure that we get a list and the first item is there. And then the data structure is going to be description. Beautiful. All right, now it's time to go ahead and test this application. All right, the page is loading. Let's go to the product list. So we have now two products. Let me just go and make sure resetting our app state. So there we go, no product. Let's add maybe 3 product. Beautiful. Let's go and open that. There you go. Now we have the first product going back, then the second product. We can go and now make another small change and changing the picture. Let's quickly do that together. So I'm going to go and now select the image. And let's set the path from the variable. And we're going to select the products. Here, we're going to do the same as we did for the list item. So we're going to go and filter the list. So the condition is going to be the product is need to equal to the item of the list, which is going to set as the ID to be matched with the product ID. So here's our condition. So I'm going to go and select item at index, the first item, which is the product. And the data structure is going to be the images. But images are going to be list. I need only one image at top. So let's do item at index and only select the first image. Beautiful. Confirm. All right. We're also adding now the picture. I'm going to go and test out right now again. All right. Here's my product list. Let's click on that one. There we go. The picture is appearing. Yes. And the third one, beautiful. And that's it. Let's move on to the next video and see how whatever we've done is actually appearing in the generated code. It's time to dig deeper to generated code in FlutterFlow. Here is my application right now. And I'm going to start by telling you that FlutterFlow is using a package called GoRouter to manage the page navigation and routing in the generated code or in the Flutter application. I'm going to open the main.dart and I will start with the first part, and that is using the material.router constructor. In this case, you need to pass the router config. And the router config is a Go router. Let's go and check that out. The router is going to create from this function. So I'm going to open this function. And as you can see, it is opening that in a nav.dart file, which is located under the nav folder, under FlutterFlow folder in our application. So this is going to create all of our routing. And it's going to start with the initial location, and then, which is the home page, and then it goes to other pages such as home page, order list page, and profile setting page. These are the paths that you can also define in FlutterFlow. And then you see that is actually opening the profile settings widget. But there's one thing that you will see here is that the list of routes here are all of one class, FFRoute. And if I actually open the FFRoute here, you see it's a class that requires a few things here. In fact, it's a class that is actually wrapping the Go route, but is also adding a few more things on top of it, which is needed for FlutterFlow application. For example, the custom transition, the page transition we have, and so on and so forth. So if you want to look for some of the implementation of the routing, you also need to take a look at the FFRoute class. All right, then how this is used then. Let's open the page that we defined a navigation. So I'm going to actually open from the simplest one. Let's go and open the home page widget. On this home page, we have a button that was going to the profile settings. Here is the implementation, and that is going to be a FF button widget. And on press, that was the action we added. As you can see, it's actually going to push to a name, which was the profile setting page. And where was this defined? As you've seen, it was in the nav file under the create route function. Let's go back and find it out. Here is the name. So you can push to this name in the generated code in this way. Let's test out another one, the product list page. On the product list page, let me actually go and define the list view. There we go. That's where we are generating our product item cards. And on each product item card component, we had an on tab action where, as you can see, we are pushing to the product details. But this time, this is different because we have a query param. And that's where we have defined the product ID from the page. And now we're passing the ID of the product. And now let's go to product detail page. When we open the product detail page, we see that the parameter is actually part of the constructor. So we define this. And now when you go to this page, you need to pass the product ID in this case. And that's beautiful because when you land on this page, then you already know the ID, and that's required. But how from that push you are passing this here? We need to go back to our create route function again. So if we look at the product detail page on this list, we will see that we have a params on this routing. And that param is going to get the product ID anywhere that we push this ID. That's beautiful. And we're passing this ID to this widget that we created. Now, if I go to product detail page, it's already passed. Beautiful. And then all the way down, you will see that now when we are going to create for example, an image, we're getting that from a product from app state. We're making a filter by where, which in this case, the product is equal to the list of the ID of one of the item in the list. And we get the first image and the first. This is exactly the filter that we made in FlutterFlow. And last thing I want to show you is the back button on this page. We created a navigate back. And as you can see, the name that I put also in the action flow editor is also appearing as a comment here. And as you can see, the only thing it does is just navigate back, and it says save pop. I'm going to open the save pop, and you see that the only thing it does is just check if it can pop, it will pop it. Otherwise, it goes to the home page.